What is going on, everybody? Car Guy V8 here, and in this video I'm going to show you what to do after installing a new flat tappet camshaft into your engine, and I'm going to show you some ways to try and make sure that this engine survives its break-in period for the new camshaft and has a healthy life afterwards. So I just installed a brand new Melling MTC1 camshaft in this engine, and I also installed some new High Lift brand flat tappet lifters. Now, to the best of my knowledge, High Lift is the only American company that still makes flat tappet lifters. So these are about 3 or 4 times more expensive than just a standard flat tappet lifter that you'll find online, because these are American made, and Melling is an American camshaft company as well. So right off the bat, buying American made stuff will give us a much better chance at surviving this initial break-in. So after you install your camshaft and put on your timing set, your crankshaft timing gear's little mark will be at the 12 o'clock position, and your camshaft gear's little mark will be at the 6 o'clock position, or dot to dot as we call it. And the reason this is important is because you actually will have 2 cylinders at top dead center. You see dot to dot on the timing gears, you see your timing tab and your balancer will both show 0. But you will have 2 cylinders at top dead center, both cylinder 1 and you'll have cylinder 6 at top dead center as well. But at dot to dot, cylinder 1 is on the exhaust stroke and cylinder 6 is on the compression stroke. So if you were to drop your distributor in with the timing gears dot to dot, you would actually be 180 degrees out of timing, which many people do not realize this when building an engine. So a lot of times they'll end up with 180 out timing. And so actually you would rotate the engine 1 full time, because the distributor turns half a turn for every full turn of the engine. And so does your camshaft timing gear. It is a 1-to-2 ratio. So if you rotate the engine 1 full time to where your timing mark is back at 0, then your camshaft dot would be at 12 o'clock, and so would your crankshaft dot. So 12 and 12 would be compression stroke on cylinder 1 and exhaust stroke on cylinder 6. And the reason I'm telling y'all all this is because dot to dot right now, we are going to set 8 valves. Then I'm going to do 1 full rotation of the engine, which will put us at the compression stroke, 12 o'clock and 12 o'clock on the timing gears. But it will be then compression stroke of this cylinder, cylinder 1, and then we will set the other 8 valves. So what we will do in 1 full rotation of the engine, we will have set all 16 valves, and our distributor will be ready to plop in, and we will know 100% that it will be on the right compression stroke, cylinder 1. So that will make 1 full rotation of the engine, button everything up, we'll be ready to fire. Now, it is worth mentioning that if you are running a roller camshaft or have an already broken in flat tappet camshaft, then you obviously want to set 1 valve at a time using a method such as the exhaust opening intake closing method. That's what I usually use, but since we have a new flat tappet camshaft here, to ensure that it has the best chance of survival, 1 full rotation of the engine is safer than 15 or 20 doing 1 valve at a time, especially with no oil flowing through this engine whenever we're doing all this. Now, I have used this method several times in the past, and I actually really like it. I've had no issues with this method. It seems to work best with small to mid-sized camshafts. If you run a large camshaft, the issue you'll run into whenever setting 8 valves at a time is that some of them may not be on the base circle anymore, and they'll actually be on the ramp. And the worst case scenario then is that your valve is a little loose, because you really have no way to over tighten it unless you just set the valves wrong. Having them loose is a lot better than having them too tight. So even I would use this method with a new, bigger flat tappet camshaft. But now let me show y'all my method for setting these valves. First, we're going to adjust the exhaust of cylinder 2, then the exhaust of 5, 6, 7, and the intake of 3, 4, 6, and 8. I'll, of course, put up a diagram to make it easier, but here we go. Let's see. Just going to tighten this up. So a lot of people twist the push rod to gauge how close it is to being at 0 lash. I don't. I think that gives you false readings. So I use up and down movement. Just a little at a time. We barely got any up and down movement. Still got ever so slightly. There we go, 0 lash right there. Then I'm gonna do a half turn. About right there, and that valve is set. Now we're just gonna do all the others just like that. So those are the 8 valves now set on the compression stroke of cylinder 6. So now I'm going to rotate the engine 1 full time over, and then we're going to do the other 8. So let me get the time lapse back going for you guys. About 10 minutes later, all 16 valves are set. You can see how uniform the stud coming out of the top of the rocker arm nuts are. You want those to be pretty uniform across the board, and I'm confident we will have no valve train issues in this cam break-in. Next, we are going to pre-lube this engine. You can see I've already got my oil pressure fitting going down to my oil pressure gauge right here, and this is the break-in oil that I'm using. My machine shop recommends this, and I've used it a couple of times in the past with no issues. And I'm going to be using this tool right here. This attaches to my drill, and it goes down over the oil pump drive shaft. And this is to spin the oil pump, and it will pre-lube the engine. We're actually going to turn the engine over twice while doing this in 180-degree increments, and twice being so that we get it back to the compression stroke on cylinder 1. And if you don't have one of these, if you use enough assembly lube in the engine, you shouldn't have any issues. But I always recommend doing this. It never hurts to pre-lube your engine. So let's get started. There we go. Man, I wish I could use my stronger drill. I lost the key to it. It's one of those old skill drills. But the old M12, we'll just have to suffer through it today. But it's got oil pressure. It's already got oil to several rocker arms here. So that's one of the reasons we're going to rotate the engine 4 different times in 180 degree increments so that we can get oil to all these rocker arms. Then we're going to be good. Now I'm going to show you a trick on how to set the timing for this initial fire up. Now, of course, it's always easier to set the timing whenever an engine is running, but we don't have that option since this will be the first startup. So we want to get the timing as close as we can so that there aren't any rough starts, no backfires through the carburetor. We want to get it close. So as we discussed earlier, we're already on the 0 degrees on the balancer. Compression stroke is cylinder 1. And the rotor is pointing to where number 1 would be on the cap. So this is the way that I do it to try to go ahead and put a little bit of advance into this distributor. So watch the rotor, and I'm actually going to rotate the engine counterclockwise, so in reverse, about 10 degrees on the tab right there. So watch that. You will see it will barely move at all. I mean, when you're talking about 360 degrees of rotation on such a small distributor like that, it's really not going to move back much, but it should be enough to let us set it. Yeah, you see it's just barely moving. Right now I got it about 12 degrees. I'm going to go a little more forward. Let's see. Way too far. I've got a short wrench on this, so let's see, just a little more right there. So then I'm going to go ahead and rotate this distributor counterclockwise. About right there. Hopefully my fat head wasn't in the way. But that was, right there is about 10 degrees. So this thing should fire up without a hitch. Let me go ahead and throw that cap on there, because I want to show y'all something else while I've got your attention here. There we go. That is just about how I like it. Let me grab this camera off the stand. I love having this, the little port coming off for your electronics. I love having that as perpendicular to the back of the block as I can. It always looks better on a Chevy 350 if you've got that pretty straight. I hate it whenever I see it, all the way over here, all the way back there. This right here gives you plenty of room for advancing or retarding the distributor, whichever way you have to go when timing your engine. So that right there should be pretty much spot on. I love the way a brand new distributor looks too. That thing looks sharp. But guys, thank y'all for watching this video. I hope that it helped you. Let me know in the comments what you think.